In a town as riddled with secrets as Port Charles, few moments strike with the force of truth delivered on a grand stage. And yet, that's exactly what happened when Gio, the gifted young violinist whose haunting melodies had become a beloved fixture in the Quartermain orbit, tore the veil from his past at the 2025 Nurses' Ball. The announcement, raw, painful, and entirely unscripted, shattered the illusion of serenity in one of General Hospital's most emotionally loaded evenings, leaving an already fractured family reeling and the future of one young man dangling on a precipice. The eruption began in the spotlight. Gio, who had once found refuge in music, stunned the crowd by abruptly ending his performance with an emotional outburst. In a single, heartbreaking motion, he smashed his violin, the instrument that had once symbolized order and beauty amidst his internal chaos. The silence that followed was deafening. And then he was gone. The news of his disappearance rippled through Port Charles with an urgency that only compounded the grief of those closest to him. Brooke Lynn, ever tied to the tangled lineage of her family and their secrets, found herself face to face with Lois, the mother who had once made the impossible decision to protect Gio by hiding his true parentage. It was a reunion forged not in reconciliation, but in the kindling embers of betrayal. There was no forgiveness in Brooke Lynn's eyes, only an avalanche of long-buried fury as she confronted Lois about the affair that led to Gio's birth, an affair now too explosive to contain. Meanwhile, Emma, who had shared Gio's private heartaches in the months leading to this public unraveling, followed him to the Quartermain mansion. There, she found him in a whirlwind, his hands trembling as he stuffed the last of his belongings into a worn duffel bag. He told her to leave. She told him she wouldn't. They were on the brink of escape, bound by youthful defiance and heartbreak, when the past walked through the front door in the form of Tracy Quartermain. Tracy, unaware of the seismic shifts unfolding across town, began recounting her night at the ball with amused detachment. But the moment she recognized the sorrow in Gio's eyes and the echo of familiarity in his face, something shifted. The impromptu confession from Gio, that he was her great-grandson, caught her breathless. In that moment, time seemed to stop. She didn't question it. Instead, she reached into her own past, pulling out an old photo of her parents and telling Gio that everything within those walls, this chaotic, bruised, and wealthy legacy, now also belonged to him. As Tracy scrambled to reconnect with the lineage she never knew she had, Brooke Lynn and Dante were preparing to leave the Metro Court. The news from Tracy arrived via a short but seismic message. Gio was at the mansion. Brooke Lynn, torn between duty and grief, stood at a crossroads. Lois, desperate for a second chance, begged to come along. What followed was a brutal reckoning. Brooke Lynn, her heart frayed beyond recognition, delivered a final warning to the mother who had lied to protect her but ended up damaging everyone involved. She told Lois to stay away from both her and Gio. It was a dagger twisted slowly, a daughter condemning her mother to emotional exile. As Lois sat in silence at the Metro Court bar, the emptiness around her was soon filled by the familiar voice of Ned, the man who had once been her anchor. Their shared history now became a strange comfort, a mirror to the mistakes that had unraveled their family from within. Back at the Quartermain mansion, the air was thick with tension. Gio stood before Tracy, his expression clouded with suspicion. Her kindness felt like another trap. To him, everyone had lied: his birth, his parents, his place in this family. The warmth of the home around him felt like a facade, another layer of deception he refused to accept. And so, with his duffel bag in hand once again, he turned toward the door, toward freedom, toward the unknown. But fate hadn't finished with him yet. Just as he reached for the knob, Brooke Lynn and Dante stepped into the room. There were no dramatic declarations, no overwrought pleas. Just the heavy silence of people who knew that love alone might not be enough to stop someone already halfway gone. Gio looked at them, at the two adults who had only recently been revealed to him as more than mere connections. They were parents. Complicated, flawed, desperate parents. In his silence was a question he couldn't yet form: could he trust them? For Brooke Lynn and Dante, the moment was one of reckoning. This wasn't about demanding that Gio stay or trying to fix things overnight. It was about acknowledging their failure, the years lost, the choices made in fear and shame. Brooke Lynn didn't cry, and Dante didn't beg. Instead, they stood still, offering the only thing they had left: presence. An open door, if he chose to walk back through it. Tracy, watching from the edge of the room, said nothing more. For all her bluster and influence, even she understood this was no longer about power or legacy. It was about a boy at the center of a hurricane, deciding whether he wanted to be swept away by it or find shelter in the eye. As the night wore on, no one could predict whether Gio would stay in Port Charles or vanish into the distance with Emma by his side. What was clear, however, was that the damage done would not be easily repaired. The violin was still in pieces on the nurses' ball stage, but its echoes, like the truths revealed, lingered long after the music stopped. Port Charles, a city built on secrets, had been shaken once more. And as the dust settled, everyone waited, breath held, for Gio's next move.